Hola.
Hello.
Hey. So, what did you think of that meeting today?
I thought it went pretty well. Seemed to be everybody on board, pretty excited. Could imagine it kind of going better, I guess.
Good. That's all I need to hear. Then we can get into the next thing. Just wanted to check real quick. Let me bring up my super program here so we can play with your genetic structure. Today, your genetic coding, I should say, or imprinting is even more correct. And you'll have to make me a co-host so I can share. And let's bring up you. So we're ready. Let's see. There it is. Damn it. Okay. Okay, now I have to go into the share mode. There you are. Now your chart's pretty accurate. I mean, the birth time, right? You have a birth certificate.
That's a bit. My mom said 2:30, but she was a bit sort of not sure, so I wouldn't say it's an exact.
Okay, it's just that when you get down into these little squares here, which are bases, they have a span of about 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay.
So those could be different. And
okay.
Also, it would depend upon the percentage that each thing is in its gates. But the gates themselves and the lines will all would all probably be pretty good. Have you ever had a human design reading?
No.
And okay.
Hers was very interesting. It looked like she was stacked with some great.
Well, she had stuff that was appropriate to what she's doing, and it always turns out that way. This stuff is incredibly accurate. I'm just looking at how I want to begin. Well, we know you're a manifesting generator, and you're emotionally defined. So all that means is you got to trust your guts, and then once you trust your guts, you follow your guts, but you have to wait until you're totally clear in all the feelings you have about whatever you're trusting your guts about. So you got to go through the highs and lows and see it get as much clarity as you can before you actually make a decision. And once you do, you need to inform people because you're a manifesting generator, and the manifesting part of you needs to let people know that you're coming through and you're going to manifest, because otherwise you will tend to run people over. That's the problem with manifestors. So that's the first thing. So your emotional definition is called your authority, and that's how you make decisions. And so that's where you have to wait for the clarity in your emotional wave to see all of that. And your type is a manifesting generator, and we already went through what that's about. You get a hit, but then you wait for clarity through your emotional wave. And then in the manifesting part, you just inform that you're going to do whatever you're going to do after all that. And then you are a, let's see, that's weird. Looks like you're a split definition. Let me make sure.
Not self-themed frustration. Oh yeah.
What's that now?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, not self. Oh yeah. Here, I can move this down over here so you can see some of the things here. Yeah, this is a deeper thing, variable. It has to do with how you use your awareness, but you're very strategic. So
can you move our picture thing, or is that can I move this? I can move this. Okay, there you go.
How about right there?
Yeah.
That way it's not in front of anything. Yeah. So anyway, your split definition, all that means is you need somebody to connect the split between, here's where your gap is. So your 40-second gate, I have the 40-second gate. So I'd be somebody who could bridge for you.
Oh.
All it means is that this line here that's full and all of these lines over here are not connected until you get some kind of temporary definition here, either through a person like me or through a transit of some planet or the sun or
Really?
Yeah.
My channels don't get activated unless that 4253.
No. They don't. They just don't connect. And you
they
need
don't
to,
connect.
yeah, they just don't connect. But no, they're all, these ones that are, these channels are permanent your whole life. You always have access
Okay.
to your moody emotionalness, but that is also the spirit of what's coming through in the mutation. So it has a much higher octave too, because the 55th gate is where the mutation is going to occur and change everything about all of life, and especially human life, because a new form is going to come through called a rave it's going to be way more rad in terms of just the bottom line than what a human is capable of. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But anyway, it's all about your mood, and you have to learn how to, and your mood comes in a pulse, because this is an individual channel, and individual channels are always about mutation. So you have to watch for the pulse, because that's where you're going to see your wave. Your wave will come in a pulse. It's not there all the time, but when it comes, you have to pay attention, because it will show you what you need to see.
So the 42, which one is 42 in the gene keys?
Oh, it's in the original hexagrams. It's called increase. In the I Ching, in the human design, which we're working with, it's called growth. And the spectrum of consciousness goes from expectation to detachment to celebration. So that's what it is. And it's just the sense of the splits. What it means is that you're better when you have somebody with you. You seek to have a partner or somebody in some way to feel complete. I know I do, and I have one, so that's very critical for me. And we tend, when we have split definition, to feel the aloneness when we're alone, and we always feel more complete when we're with somebody who we have an intimate connection with.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. And then we go into your profile. I'm just gonna go right across the top. These are called the 4 views. We've already done authority, type. Definition, which is a split, and now we're going to do profile, and then we'll just start going into deeper areas. And your profile's here, this 3-5 thing. 3, and this is the 3s they're talking about, third lines. We could even hit on them, and you could see this is your life's work in terms of human design. They don't call it that, they call it personality sun, but I'll just leave it up so you can see. Oh, and here's where we have all the percentages. So this one, but you have to remember the definitions that Ra gives are very much aligned with the shadow stuff. So you don't want to get too worried about what it says there. So basically, you're just that which empowers any role. So that's really what it says: the display of power that defines any role. You don't have any fixation though, so it's just basically the indiscriminate display of power, and it's not anything that you have to do. It's just your aura just comes across that way, and and the more centered you are, and how should I call it? The more settled you are into who you are, the more grounded you are into who you are, then you don't even have to ever make an overt display of it. It's just gonna affect the space you're in this way, the indiscriminate display of power. So it's just going to radiate from you in that way. Okay. But over here, you have self-awareness. So that's a good thing, because that's how you evolve it. That's how you grow that quality. So it's kind of obvious that if you have an indiscriminate display of power, there's always a balance in these things, because the earth is opposite your sun. So here you have understanding derived from analysis of personal actions and effects. So it's a good thing that you have that, because you're going to get constant feedback. Even if nobody tells you, you'll just pick it up somehow, because generators are open, so they pick up a lot in their aura. And you'll be able to make analysis out of that and that kind of thing. And I'm not going into any of these because you don't have either the one or the other, although it's funny because it says here you have the Earth, and it's in the Earth position, but it's not calling it out that way, because otherwise you'd only have this one, not both of them. So I go more with the blue. And these blue, the reason they're blue is because they're a whole life learning process. Not all the gates we're going to look at will have this blue. It will only have these two areas down here. And so then we have to look at those and find the balance between them. So these are just things I'm going to throw out to you, because this, again, remember this top line across here, all of this is 70% of who you are, and the rest is the road you travel and how you register what's on that road. So here we have the femme fatale, or Casanova. Isn't that fun? And he's laughing, so it must be. Anyway, it says fixating planet sun, so you're going to have more of this here, which is the power to use love to break down any barrier given the sun's lightness. There's no negative connotation inherent in this description. And it's also the power of sexuality to attract others. And that's just the raw power of it. That probably goes pretty well with your machismo thing. But this is how others see you. All the stuff on the red over here is kind of how you come across to others, and this is more how you come across to yourself, how you see yourself. So that's just something to
those percentages look kind of high compared to the other side. Is there a reason for that? Or?
Yeah, because it's 88 degrees different, not 90 degrees. So you're not going to have direct correlations.
Okay.
It was only if it's 90 degrees would you have consistent percentage across the board. There's never such a thing in human design, because it's always 2 degrees different. That's why things are the way they are in human design. And here you have growth, and this is these words here are for the line, the little green thing here, not the gate.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but it is the 55th gate, which we saw before anyway. So this has a little bit of both sides of this: the unusual ability and a position of power to accept advice and transform it innovatively. This gift in a position of power allows one to continue to lead rather than being perceived as being led. Emotional strength and spirit derive from positions of power. An integrative openness that in its broad acceptance of advice may eventually eclipsed. An emotional openness where the spirit is at risk from conditioning. So it's neither one nor the other. You kind of have to put these two together and make somewhere there's a quantum between those two. That is in the word growth. So that is how you would have to determine that. I mean, I could go into much greater depth and all that. So your third line here is about bonds made and broken. That's how you have in your relationships. It's also the school of hard knocks. It's also the line of adaptation. It's also the line of the strategizer. So you're really good. It's also the most material of all the lines of the 6 lines of any gate. So you have so everything you share about what you do, like we did in our meeting earlier today with you on the horizontal, is perfect for you, because you have a natural ability to be very in touch with the material situation and to work with that. So that's the third line. The fifth line is all about seducing and being seduced. It's the line of universalization. So it's taking the goods to market is what that's all about. So you have to, over here, you have to kind of break through the limitations in yourself and reach out to others so that you can universalize some aspect or truth that is important. And it would have to do with these particular gates that you have. So this here is, as we know, the 34th gate is all about power, and it's the power of the great in the original I Ching. It's Gene Keys goes from force to strength and more like inner strength to majesty. So that's where where your highest expression of your machismo would just be that people being around you would sense that majestic presence and act accordingly. This here in the original I Ching hexagram is called contemplation. In the human design, it's the gate of the now. And it goes from superficiality to self-assuredness to presence. And that means presencing your higher self. So the way that you are able to evolve, and it's also this position is your greatest blind spot, but it's also your greatest challenge to evolve, because it's always going to throw stuff at you to keep growing and growing and growing. So that you have that range between superficiality to pure presence through the gift of self-assuredness. So, and it's probably pretty good that you've worked out so many things that you can present now that you feel very solid behind in your life. Because when you're in that position of the now, you can perform adequately and, stand behind what you do. That's just, those are just insights I'm having based on some of the work we've done already. And it all has to do here at the variable level, which is a tonal quality that connects you into the collective wholeness, not the universal, but the collective. These little squares are the universal. So in the collective, again, it's about being strategic. And it's about, you have the color here is the observer. I'll show you over here where that is. Hopefully it shows it. Yeah, right here. Innocence is the color, and it's left oriented, which is this strategic, which means you're an observer. So there's a lot you could learn from that, and how your awareness functions. This is being. This right here is being. This down here is seeing. But how being works best for you is if you trust your innocence and your openness and your no agenda, but based on observation is where you're going to get the most information through awareness. That's how your awareness works. Okay. So that's what that's saying to you. Those are deeper levels that most people in human design don't even know. That's why there's a deeper chart here. Because in most human design, you don't get all these extra bits. Or this third thing down here, which we may not get to because that's going to be, depends on our time. Because, okay, so then over here, you have, you're like me. You're somebody who's designed to digest in the dark. And that's the only way. I don't necessarily agree 100% with what he called this. This is all about digestion. But I think of digestion in terms of metabolizing experience more so than when you eat. So we tend to do our best processing of things probably when we sleep. Or also I've noticed for me, because I can go into dreaming space when I'm wide awake and even into deep sleep space when I'm wide awake, that I am really very effective after the sun sets. So that might be something useful for you too, to be aware of about that.
Well, I like working late in the night. It's not like.
Yeah, because what this says over here is indirect light. So it means being out of the sun, usually after sunset, is what all that is indicating. Yes, correct. And you don't have to do anything about it, because this is your one arrow that goes to the right, which means your brain, your vehicle works in a passive mode the best in order to digest things. So that's a good thing to know. You don't have to actively digest stuff. You just have to stop doing things. That's why I say sleeping at night, sleeping on it is probably a really good thing for you, especially because you have this emotional authority down here from the 39 to the 55. And emotional people, it's always good if they sleep on stuff or even give it a day or two before they make major decisions. And so that is that's helped by this up here, this deeper stuff here. And so I just wanted to tap into that because I was tapping into it over here. But your 59th gate here is, in human design, it's called the gate of sexuality. In the original I Ching, it's called dispersion, which makes sense because it's how you disperse yourself. into others. And it's kind of how you use your creative energy in a very physical sense. But it's also connected to building. So there's creativity through your hands also that's contained in this gate. And bringing that to market. So all your diagrams, building with ideas and that kind of thing makes a lot of sense for you that would come out with this. And the 55 originally in the I Ching is called abundance, and in human design it's called the spirit, because it's the spirit that's going to be coming into life as a whole. And I don't know about beyond this planet, but certainly on this planet, and everything is going to be evolved to a higher frequency. So, and that's your core stability. So that's just something that, funny enough, the way that you ground the best is by being very in touch with and open to mutation and pulses of mutation as they happen through you, through your emotional system. Because it's the 55th gate over here, which is in the emotional solar plexus system. Because eventually you'll learn to read the spirit through that. So I think there's maybe, because I'm going deeper and giving deeper interpretations, I sense that kind of stuff from you. And I also sense because you're a third line and a fifth line, it's all about being very practical in terms of the material situation. But there's a lot of deeper stuff coming through too, that you're here to ground. So that's something to be aware of. Yeah. So then if
cognition and touch, is that out of order? Or?
Cognition is, your cognition is touch. Yeah, that's over here. That's this. This is touch right here. So all that means in terms of the tonal is that it's important for you, not only when you're eating, that you are able to touch what you eat. You don't necessarily need light when you're eating, but you do need to touch your food and feel your food. But also on a deeper level, when it comes to digesting information and stuff, there's in some way you have to be very in touch with it. So I would guess that you would have to, like somebody like me who's very in touch with what I'm doing right now, and then passing it on to you. That would be another example of digesting information as opposed to food, so that you could digest it better. But that's what the touch is. On this side, you don't have any sixes in your triangles over here, so we won't worry about it. But yeah, on the design side, it's the sense of touch. So you have to be in direct contact with things in order to be able to digest what's there in them, if that makes sense. You have to come into direct contact with them. So that's kind of across here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip down this way and go back across here and then I'm going to actually come back and end up back up here again. And that's in order to do these deeper levels of it. But in the 4 transformations, which is the next deeper step down from the basic 4 views I gave you, and the line details that I was giving you for each of these major gates, there's what's called the 4 transformations. And you start with digestion, and then you move to environment, then you move to view, and then you ultimately move to awareness. And those are the 4 stages. And they actually occur in that way for a lot of different reasons, which I'm not going to go into right now. But here we're working with your view, your environment. So let's remember too that, like in the 4 quadrants, we started over here in the personal, individual, subjective realm, the thing closest to you, and then we moved over here to the objective individual. So that's your physical vehicle, your vehicle. Here we're moving into the collective objective, so this is environment, where all the other objects are. So what is the best environment for you? So before I even get into the lines and the gates, I'll pop over here. And this is you're a valley person and you're narrow valleys. Even though it doesn't tell you narrow, I know because it just tells you valleys over here, environment. But you're left tinged. That's why it's red over here. And that means it's a narrow valley. So the best place you function is in valleys that are narrow. Kind of like canyons, as opposed to wide open valleys, more like canyon, sort of being near canyons, that kind of thing. There's a lot of those in Southern California and San Diego, where I come from, in certain areas of town. And I could see that would be a place for you to, because when you're in that kind of a place, all your senses, these two gates will really open and function the way they're supposed to for you. That's why. That's just like this, when you're following indirect light and you're directly in touch with what you're absorbing into your system, these will really turn on and function for you. So it's like you have to find these codes in order for these to turn on and function for you in the way they're supposed to. That's why they're like that. So narrow valleys like canyons, gorges, those kind of things. So over here, we'll go from your south node, which is kind of like what is most connected, and there's reasons for this too, but it's what's most connected to what's up here and how all this drops down into here. This one, funny enough, the north node actually connects more with what's over on this side. And I'll explain something else when we get over here that's interesting too. But so here you have the 54th gate. That's the marrying maiden, who starts out as the cleaner and ends up as the queen. So it's in terms of spectrum of consciousness, it's ambition or greed, and then the gift is aspiration, and the siddha is ascension. So remember too, this is about others in your space. This up here is you personally, but this down here is what you surround yourself with. This is what's in your environment. So you're going to have people that are marrying maidens that are able to not only climb the ladder of the social or the business hierarchy, but they're also able to universalize it. In other words, find the best way to do that. So that would be a good thing to be around, especially because of your material capacities and intelligence, to be around people who know how to climb those and use their, unfortunately for most people, it's their ambition, but if you can find people that are more into aspiration and what they aspire to and doing it in a clean way, you'll learn a lot more out of that. And you'll definitely be able to read all that, especially if you're in your narrow valleys environment, to do that. And then this north node, which, as I said, has more to do with this side over here, because it's how you view this here has to do with how the environment affects your body and all the stuff up here. So that's about being around those kind of people I was describing. This over here is how you see your environment. So that's why it's more connected. Human design is very deep, and there's a lot of crossover things that happen that are very interesting. But anyway, as this crosses over here, it's basically the 53rd gate is about growth. Well, no, not it's. Excuse me. It's about development. Sorry, that's the human design version of it, is development, and it goes. The spectrum of consciousness goes from immaturity to expansion to superabundance. So again, you have a really, to be able to have this framework within which to view your environment, you'll really be able to tell who are those that are loaded and who are those that just aren't there yet. They're not, and those that we're getting there, expanding, getting to that place. Because, and again, it's the fifth line. So these are people that can universalize either their immaturity or their expansion or their superabundance. Okay, and that's something you'll be able to view in your environment, and you'll be conscious of it. You'll be aware of it because it's connected to the view over here.
Now, could I just ask? Could that be like in a spiritual sense of seeing what people's gifts, or is it just related to material abundance?
Well, the fifth line is very much the most practical line, But then if you want to look at it in terms of spiritual, think of me as a martial artist. I always tried to find practical ways to express my spirituality. So yes, you can always see the spirit as it's manifested in practical actions by the way the spirit literally imbues those actions with its vivacity and its awareness, and there's qualities that you can discern in the way a person, like if in the Karate Kid, the old man, the Korean karate teacher, I mean, he had a lot of that kind of, very down to earth, very very whatever, but he could take his examples that he taught the kid his martial arts through teaching him skills in life, wax on, wax off, the whole thing. And that's a move in martial arts, a very deep move that if you get really good at it, it's very effective. So that's kind of, I will kind of give you that clue in terms of what you just asked, because you have to develop an eye for that to be able to do that. So that's what I will say about that. But also the 53rd gate is the gate of beginnings. So it's also about being aware of those that are capable in your environment of they're at a new beginning, or they have the capacity to begin something new. And that's where you can kind of discern the presence of spirit and how much spirit is there. And if there's kind of like truth being conveyed in that, then there's a good chance they could stick with what they're going to do and bring it into the right field to manifest and become something where spirit can be expressed in matter. So that's a little deeper answer there. And then over here, this is all about the view. And you have, this is the color of wanting. It's all about need, seeing what's wanted in a space. And it's to the left. So this is, and it's to the left. So this is somebody who's going to be more a master in a space rather than a novice. So your view, in your early years, you were more that came across as the novice, because in the view, you shift from the one to the other throughout your life. So in the beginning, you're going to be the opposite earlier in your life of what you should be, which is to be a master rather than a novice. But as you are now, you're coming into your mastery. So that is how you're going to tend to view things, from the position of mastery. And you're going to be able to ascertain from that. And if you trust that, then these will open up for you. And this one here, the south node, actually belongs more over on this side. And this is the shape that your environment will tend to take. Which is the 38th gate. So it's all about opposition. Opposition has the spectrum of consciousness that goes from struggle to perseverance to honor. So you're really going to have to bring something very, well, it's actually it's the shapes of the environments you're going to find yourself in order to bring across, that's where your view will best be welcomed. Let's put it that way. And it's a trial and error thing too. So you're going to have to, make mistakes, learn from it, and then try again until you discover the best way to go about seeing where the mastery lies in your environment. Because it will literally take the shape of a mastery of opposition, a mastering of oppositions, which in the end kind of is like a sense of conquering, but in a good way, that you conquered all the objections, and now you're able to move forward with great confidence because of that. And so that's why it's beautiful that you have your machismo, because you're going to need something like of that degree of indiscriminate display of power in order to be able to carry that across. Okay, and so that, like I said, this south node relates more to this side, and there's a reason for that, which I can't get into now because it's very deep human design. Now, this north node relates directly to how your awareness functions. So this here is the window through which you will, your awareness will function, because whatever comes through here will go directly into your awareness. Whereas this is more how the environment will take a shape. So over here we have the 39th gate. That's the gate of the provocateur. It goes from provocation to dynamism to liberation. So through trial and error, and in a masterful way now, You're going to be very clear that what is going to be and you're going to have a very, you want to be focused here because this is a left arrow, which means focused instead of peripheral. So it's stuff directly in your vision. You're really going to want to see where the provocation is, because that's going to be food of trial and error that's going to go link directly into information you need for you to establish yourself as your own presence in the space as you come back up here and express all of this. So when that happens, and again, like I said, provocation, dynamism, liberation, any of those qualities will be will literally serve as a window into clearly showing you what is going to be the best way to use your power in the now. And you have the 6 here, which is again, this is that innocence we were talking about, and it's to the left. So it's about being an observer through a very focused view. So you're going to need to really pay attention, but you have the gate of the now over here. So, and that's your evolution. So that's your biggest challenge, is to stay present in the now, in order to allow whatever information coming in to be utilized to the best. But I see with all your charts and your diagrams, you have obviously done a lot of that, because it would take the kind of painstaking focus and ability to observe to be able to put all that together. And it's funny because then you have over here the ambition and development over time, and this is all stuff that you must have had in your environment a lot, that allowed you to be able to observe those things and see how things move and grow and change, and be able to see the best way to manifest your power in the now in those spaces. So all in all, very transformational. Very transformational capacities for you to work with. So that now we can step a little bit into the lunar and planetary resonance field. These are very much dependent. These gates are very much dependent on the third thing, the color here, on what is in your aura. Because whatever's in your aura will light up. Like if a person who steps into your aura has in their personality over here in this place, the color, if they have a fourth color, it's going to activate this, because there's a fourth color here. All these third ones are colors, lines, gates. So anything else, and this one, these two will light up, and you will be able to, this is the color of focus. This is all about mental focus, and this is all about constrictions that you're going to have to deal with. Okay, so that just gives you an example of how that might work. And what it will do, if you're able to, once that's turned on and you have a focus, then your focus is going to be this: the disregard of form when required, which is going to take you into this thing you were talking about, spiritual, the power inherent in higher principles to successfully transgress behavioral codes. So it's okay to break the codes if something higher is coming through. And that's something you will have access to if a person has a fourth color in their personality up here when in your presence. The possibility through emotional awareness to behave individualistically in social interaction. That's the up end, and then this is the down end, neither one of which you have because it's the moon. So you don't have either one of those planets. So it's more just about the disregard of form when required. And it being the 22nd gate is the gate of openness, and it goes through the spectrum of consciousness of dishonor to graciousness to grace. So that's a very beautiful thing to have for your mental center of gravity, I call it, your ability to focus, because this is where you're going to be able to bring things into focus. And that connects very much into here with focusing and observation. Remember, we had all that. So your moon is in harmony with that. So it's going to be able to, when it's turned on, because all these things down here don't turn on unless, well, let's look at it this way. You have the six color, this is color here, remember, and this is line. And this is gate. So this color, you activate yourself, anything in here that has a sixth color. So those will always be active for you in your experience. So it's these two here. Pluto is your truth. And Neptune is your mystical bent, and it's also your tendency to be misinformed, because the mystical is always kind of hard to interpret. But that's why it's the mystical. But after awakening, after you've had a mystical death and rebirth, it's not like that anymore. Then it's the gateway into higher intelligence. I know from personal experience. And then also, so that's from a being level, you'll always be tapped into these two things, your truth and the mystical. And then your view here, fourth color, so that you'll, we were talking about fourth colors, so that's good. Focus is even really strengthened. You'll always be tapped into your moon and into your Saturn. So you're always going to have the ability to focus and bring into focus things, and you'll always have the ability to see where the constrictions are, where the discipline is needed, if you like. Saturn is also the planet of discipline. And as fourth colors, it takes on the same, because it has to do with view. Fourth color has to do with, like we said, the role of mastery as opposed to novice. So from your position, it'll bring out your mastery. And it'll be your mastery in the sense of practically being able to manifest this, either, mirroring to someone their shadow of dishonor, and hopefully not your own, or being gracious, which is your gift, or also being able to be open to the grace of the higher of your siddha. And then also here, again, fourth, to be able to see where empathy or discord, which is the shadow, or discernment is needed in a constricted space. And it's, again, in a practical way, through a very practical application, because it's a fifth line, fourth color, where your mastery can come through. So you will definitely have things to say from your experience that you've mastered through that. So that's one example of how you're always, in your view, how you see things, that these things will always be lit up for you. As far as, again, like I already said this about your truth and your mystical experience, your mystical nature. All these other ones are dependent on other things coming into your aura in order to be lit up. And then you will be able to have access to them. You'll be able to, so here, this is how you communicate, and communication through fixed rhythms. And you wait for the opportunity for that to occur. And because it's second color, it has to do with whether you are I don't know, it has to do with hope, and hope has to do with theistic hope or atheistic hope. So you can interpret that however you like. But I'm just giving you a lot of codes here, so I'm hoping it just goes in and touches the right places, because there's so much to see. And again, here, this second color is also about hope, and Mars is about mutation. So how you mutate is through ideas, and in investigating deeply ideas, as long as somebody who's either theistic or atheistic is in your field or your aura, that will turn this on, and you'll be able to get mutate ideas in harmony with that, and investigate things very deeply. And just because there's also a second color here, this is gonna, if you have somebody who has a second color up here in this place right here, then boy, are they going to turn you on into, because Jupiter's your rules, the rules you live by, and that's all about control for you, how to keep control of the situation. And again, it's about investigating deeply. What is either the beliefs or non-beliefs. So, I mean, if we want to strip away the religious connotation, hope is about whether you believe in something or not believing in it to happen. And all
how come? Because like I have a 2 up there beside the 6.
That's a tone. That has nothing
to do with the 2s down there.
Planets are not activated at the tonal level. No.
Okay.
Only these guys up here are activated at the tonal level and the base level, because they're the crystals of consciousness, and crystals of consciousness have all those facets. These are not crystals of consciousness. These are just colors that have to do with the monopole, which has to do with the G center, and it's, again, you'd have to know deep stuff in human design to understand that. The monopole is here. It's the gate of the the driver, and it's where all the colors go. And that's and this is the design crystal, lives in this spot, and it's all of this information where it comes from here. And the personality crystal is literally out of the body, literally above the head up here, and it's where all this information comes from. But anything to do with color only is relevant here. It's not here in this crystal or here in this crystal. It's only when you have crystals that you can talk about tones and bases. Otherwise, you can only talk about colors and resonance. This is the resonance field on the personality or conscious level, and on the design or how others see you that you may not be conscious of level over here. Okay, understood?
Yeah, from a design point of view, I'd have like a line going from those like to the different places. You could actually see the connection points, but that's
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
well, you like these boxes go to that map as a reference point, right? But there's no reference point to show you on the screen for that. Just as from a design point of view, I would have that.
Yeah, well, that's stuff that there's so much, the information in human design is so deep, and a lot of it is just too much information for most people. And if somebody wants to get that deep into it, then they have to start doing some of the human design trainings and stuff and go into the deeper knowledge. Because most of what I'm saying, I'm sure resonates with you, and you find a lot of like here you have this thing on the 11th gate of mutation. You also have the 11th gate here of your values, your standards that you live by, so which are both based on ideas, and both but this one has the fifth color, so it needs a totally different kind of activation. And you got to remember too, these colors can be activated by the planets transiting in the sky too. But then you would have to look at this chart here. This is the just now chart. This is where everything is right now in this moment on planet Earth. So here you could see if anything is actually activating, and it's not. And up here, not really either. But that's just an interesting, thing to look at. So somebody born right now would have this design. All of this would be there. So that's what this is. It's just now. Just to give you a quick reference now, back to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So then over here on this side, you have your sixth color here. So you're always going to be tapped into Uranus. On the design side is your trajectory through space. It's how you move through your life, is the best way to put that. And it's very wide open what that might mean, because it's up to you how you do that. And you also have your Neptune, and this is hydration. So this is how your body handles and processes water, cooling off and heating up. These are very physical qualities over here, because this is your vehicle, the design side. So you'll always be tapped into that. So you know if you're heating up or cooling down, or if you're moving or still, or how much you're moving or how much you're still in relation to an object for whatever reason. That'll be because of what's going on up here and how you're digesting either food or impressions, or how you're breathing, whether it's slow or fast or whatever. That also is connected, because there's three kinds of food, air, and impressions. So all of those relate to this space here of digestion. It's all about how you digest, and you can this will affect how you move, and also how your body handles liquid. Cooling and heating up. And then here, this is your environment, and you have here a fifth color. So that would be here, and Mars rules temperature, body temperature. And I'm sorry, here I was saying hot and cold, but it's not hot and cold. It's either dry or wet. Here it's hot or cold in Mars. And so that's always turned on, because you have this. And that will mutate temperature depending on how, so you'll be able to tell in an environment, and that's a good thing, whether you're hot or cold or comfortable or whatever. That's really going to let you know if you're in your right place or not. So that's a good thing to know. With color, very direct information. Here, this is what you exhale or exude or put out, but literally exhale. So it would be the chemicals in your exhalation, the gases or whatever. that would be, you know, there's a lot of stuff in there that you could pass on to others, especially empathy, as a role model. Or it could also be discernment, which others might need, but it could also be, if you're not careful, discord, which could create, you know, an effect you maybe don't want. So, but that will always be turned on here by depending on your environment. So if your environments aren't right, it could affect how you put out this gate of the listener. This is in human design, it's the listener. In the original I Ching, it's the fellowship of man. Yeah, and then so your moon here. This is how you. This is your gravity. How your body relates to gravity, and so you would need a third. You would need a third color here, and the third color here is dependent upon what environment you're in. Would be activated by a person who has works in like laboratories or kitchens or that kind of thing. So that would be a person whose natural environment, because third colors in environment are called kitchens, but they're hardscapes and they're maximum technical activity in a closed-in space, not out in nature. And then that would allow the gate of the egoist, which is also the gate of the deal maker and the salesman and all kinds of different things. And you would be a role model. But that would be how you feel grounded in your body, because it's about gravity. So as you can see, there's so much information in these things. And I can just choose anyone and go on about it. This is the quality of your voice, how your voice comes across when it's on the design side. This is the quality of your aura, as opposed to the rules you live by. This is your what you take in through your breath. So it's the things you're capable of absorbing through the gases in the air, but it's also on deeper levels too. Just something to be aware of. Let me see, is there any of them I haven't? And and this here is your complexion, whether you're pale or red. So that's what Venus is about. And this gate here synchronizes with this gate up here. So you have this gate. This again is the sexual nature and the creative energy, also building, the ability to build and stuff. Based on what fourth colors are mountain people. So if a person who's got a fourth color, mountain people, is in your aura, that would activate your ability to tap into what mountains bring out, and that's either active or passive. In other words, people coming up the mountain to you, or you going down the mountain into the marketplace. So that's all that means in terms of fourth color up here in this area about environments. But that would allow you to get in touch with your creative capacities, and and it has to be practical. And then and if you know, when your face gets red, that means you're deeply in touch with a lot of unconscious things, like in a trance. And the more pale you are, it means the more you're focused in the now, in the present moment, and very conscious. So that's how you can determine things about complexion. When people are red, they're in deep trance, and when they're very pale, they're just handling ordinary life, like in a marketplace with a very complex transaction, let's say, and they really have to pay attention, which you're designed for anyway. So I'm just giving you lots of little bits. I'm just kind of not even going on intuition. I'm just going on what grabs me in the moment. And that fourth color would also activate your quality of your voice here too. And you got to remember with voice too, it's got so many different things like inflection and rhythm and pitch and tone and volume and so many different things. And for you to best come across and be received, you would need to be in the presence of a person who's got a mountain environment, and then that would allow you to find the opportunities to have the greatest ability to determine your voice with maximum impact, is the way I would put it. This is the gate of determination. It's also love of the body, 46th gate, and those kind of things are gonna determine the quality of your voice in expressing things. It's also in the gene keys. It goes from seriousness to delight to ecstasy. So that could be you could literally convey that quality through your voice, an ecstatic quality, and I've noticed that about you, an ecstatic quality, or you all of a sudden you're very serious and concerned about how others are taking you, or you're delighted and like, wow, that's really neat. So those are definitely things that come out of you. So that's quite a very, 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 very deep, much deeper than most people would ever go with this stuff on a first reading. But because we've made touch, and I just wanted to kind of bring out a lot of salient points and what's possible if you start to begin to understand how you function and why certain things come out of you at certain times. It's due to the presence of others or transits that may be passing through these areas. And remember, this is all about how we register and take in and correct course on this path that we're moving along as ourselves.
Can I ask a question in terms of, you said
Yeah.
that before
Now
brings
would
out
be
my voice. How, but you also said in transit, what kind of transit would bring out that mountain quality? Or
well, any transit that's moving that's in the fourth color at the moment. Let's see if there's any such thing in the just now chart. Yeah, like here, this is in a fourth color, and it happens to be in the voice. So it would definitely, right now you have access to that because the fourth color is being activated by Mercury, which is in the same spot you have the fourth color. And that's it. Oh no, this one too. So also temperature would be affecting your temperature too. And it's also about inner truth mystery, as far as this would be the active ingredient, inner truth mystery, that would influence your capacity here of intuition. Haha. So that's how deep it gets. It gets so interesting. And it doesn't matter if this is a fifth color, because the fourth color here in this space is going to activate anything fourth color. Well, actually, it would actually activate more here also. So very interesting stuff. But because you'd have resonance here. Actually, this one here wouldn't be, because you have to have direct resonance. So there'd be direct resonance there. Otherwise, you'd have to look up here. And here, this happens to be in the fourth color right now. So that would definitely influence anything that's fourth color in you, because it has to be up here, the colors, in order to affect everything down here, unless it's in direct resonance like this one. So forget what I said about it impacting this. This you would need a fifth color for, up here in the transit or in another person, for it to affect, and not on this side, sorry. This stuff only affects this side, and this stuff only affects this side. There is no cross effect.
so this scientifically sort of proves, like, if people are good in a music band, somebody's voice is going to be a lot better if there's someone in.
Yeah, sure.
That one of these things.
Yeah, unless they're trained and they can have control. Like you can always master any gate anywhere that you don't have, like here that's blank. Any of these gates, you can, if you go through a discipline and train, you can take hold of those and do it through wisdom rather than through, spontaneous transits, or some human being in your aura that can, that has that would light it up for you. You can also train it. So, that's an earned thing. It's not an innate thing. It's an earned thing. You have to nurture it it's not part of your nature. So that's another way to do it. And then you can have qualities and, but ultimately, as you go deeper into the path, you want to be able to turn on all 64. Like, that's been my goal, and that's what I've done. And that's why I'm sharing it now, because I've learned to train all of them. That's why I had to be so comprehensive in my path, to cover so many things and make sure that all the gates were included. And that's why I can take everybody now through the weekly process as we go through gate after gate till we go through all 64. And did you notice today in the meeting that they wanted me to they want to learn all that? I said that. Can you teach us that? And so slowly, I didn't want to jump on that one right away. I want to let the effect we have on them become more enticing, and then it can, you know what I mean? Be even, how that works, because you have the 26th gate here. That's how you ground in the world, the egoist, the salesman, whatever you want to call it. And that the spectrum of consciousness there goes from pride to artfulness to invisibility. So ultimately, you just want to be that which services the whole to the best possible degree, without even having to take any kind of prideful, boastful, attention. But you need a third color to do that in your environment, to bring that out, or in somebody else who's got that as a quality. They're hot and cold people in their digestion, whereas you're light and dark. The third color up here is a hot and cold person. That's how they digest things. And down here, third color is, like I said, kitchen. So that's like laboratories, and they're either wet or dry. So you either got a guy baking, that's dry, or wet, and that's the guy who works in the kitchen and does the cooking. So that's a good way to look at wet and dry. And then you can apply that across the board to like a clean room where they make computer wafers would be a dry room, and a different kind of wet room would be, I don't know, whatever they use a lot of liquids, it gets wet, other than kitchens, whatever that might be. I can't think of it right now. Like maybe a garage. A garage might be more wet than dry because oils and gas, and all that stuff. It's a little of both. But anyway, you get my point. So if there's any other questions, that's pretty much.
Yeah, and I guess we're almost at the end of the hour. So.
And I'm glad, and I want to keep it at just an hour today because we've done a lot today. I want to get spend some time with my wife and my pups and do that kind of thing.
For sure.
But so I think that you've got that recorded. So I think you've got a wonderful, whole wealth of things you can look back into and touch base with and confirm things and do all kinds of stuff.
Well, we could also, I can send that to people and say, if you want a reading, this is what it is. And
yeah, a reading at that depth is about 250.
Okay.
A normal standard reading where I just keep it at the very superficial level of just, the stuff we did at the very beginning before we went into the 4 transformations. That's like $100. And then if you want to do a 4 transformation reading, it's more like 150. But an in-depth reading like that is about 250.
Okay.
That's what I would go that for. I've even done ones even deeper at an hour and a half to 2 hours that went up to $900. But then those were very special readings where I did a lot of extra stuff in them too, and didn't just go like I did now and kind of intuitively went over and saw things, relations that are going to be most impactful for you in life. But I go systematically through everything. Okay. And for if I do that and it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, that's more like $400 reading.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Yes.
You can really go deep into that stuff.
Well, that's great. So I know you want to go. Thank you so much. There's a lot to digest.
Yeah, beautiful. And so I guess Messenger is always our best way unless we have to pass on diagrams, and it's probably better to do email, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Lovely, Elijah. Always fun sharing with you. And we will communicate soon. Okay. And sure.
Thank you.
Bye.